भारत सभ्यता नहीं, एक भावना थी। वो धरती जहां मंदिरों की घंटियां और मस्जिदों की अजान साथ में बजती थी, जहां भाषा अलग थे, रंग अलग थे, पर रूह एक ही थी। A civilization that once stretched from the Afghan frontiers to the Bay of Bengal. This was more than geography. This was unity in diversity. Well, then came the British with laws, lies, and lines. They didn't just conquer India, they dissected it. A border not just across geography, but across hearts. जब भारत को बांटा गया था, लाशों की कतारें थीं, छोटे छोटे पांव थे जो देश ढूंढ रहे थे, और एक भारतीय दिल था जो समझ नहीं पा रहा था कि यह आखिर हुआ क्या। When the British left, they didn't just hand over power, they left behind profound pain. A partition not just of land but of spirit, one that gave birth to Pakistan and bled India. A civilization was shattered in the name of religion. कभी एक हुआ करती थी यह धरती, एक रूह, एक सांस, पर जब फिरंगियों ने विदा लिया तो साथ ले गए हमारा विश्वास। जो बांटा गया वह केवल नक्शा नहीं था, वो था इतिहास, वो था रिश्तों का आधार। धर्म के नाम पर खिंची गई लकीर इतनी गहरी थी कि लाखों लाशें उस पर गिरी। पाकिस्तान तो जरूर बना, पर इंसानियत मारी गई। Since that tragic divide, India and Pakistan have fought 5 wars. हर बार पाकिस्तान आया, धोखे से आया, घुसपैठ से आया, आतंक से आया, और हर बार भारत ने जवाब दिया, वीरता से, धैर्य से, गरिमा से। Well, this is not just history we are talking about today. This is a reminder that every single inch of this land will be defended at any cost, at every cost, forever. हर बार जब कोई पाकिस्तान के नक्शे में कश्मीर को खींचता है, एक भारतीय जवान अपनी बंदूक और कफ्न तैयार रखता है, क्योंकि यह सिर्फ जमीन नहीं, यह उसकी मिट्टी है जिसे आज भी वह मां पुकारता है। The relation between Hindus and Muslims within the Indian subcontinent have not always been of eternal wars and conflicts. Rather, it was all about unity, sharing the same demographic and geographical location, talk about society, talk about linguistics, talk about culture. Hindus and Muslims have always been together. And this is very much evident all throughout our history textbooks. Talking about the medieval period, talking about the Bhakti and Sufi movement, talking about the 1857 revolt, the very first war of independence, talking about how the majority of the Muslim population was with the Indian National Congress and the other communities of India in fighting for independence against the colonial rule, talking about how Maulana Azad Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, who is also known as the Frontier Gandhi, and many other Muslim leaders were together with Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel in the war of independence, in the freedom struggle. So in this video today, in this particular episode, we will be analyzing how the British, the external powers, the external authority, the colonial rule through their social reforms and so-called modernization processes quite literally led to disintegration of the unity between the Hindus and Muslims in the country. That led to the two-nation theory, the rise of two-nation theory, and finally the painful and the bloody partition and birth of Pakistan. Now, through this video, through the entirety of this video, we will also talk about how after the partition was done and the boundaries and the borders were defined, how the tensions between India and Pakistan hardened, and throughout the decades, throughout the past 7 decades, India and Pakistan have indulged into 5 wars, 5 major wars of 1947. I think instead of blaming Hindus and Muslims, instead of blaming each other, we should realize how an external power in the name of trade and administration led to the disintegration of India, led to the partition, led to its division into different fragments. Now, let us analyze what was the role of the British Empire in fomenting these divisions and distinctions between the several communities coexisting peacefully within the Indian subcontinent. Now, the British Empire, they had a policy of deliberately encouraging the religious divisions which existed between a number of communities within the Indian subcontinent. Now, British, when it came to India, they had a very specific advantage that India was a very diverse country. We had a number of communities, castes, people of different class living together, people of different religion living together and coexisting peacefully. So when the colonial struggle began to rise, the British realized that the people were together, the people were one, and they were fighting against colonial. And their main objective was to make this unity get disintegrated, and their policy was to make people of the different communities fight. The nationalist leaders of different class, of different castes, of different religions fight. Now, we realize how the British were actually very successful in promoting these religious differences between the Hindus and Muslims majorly, which finally led to the rise of an idea in the minds of the people, in the minds and hearts of the people of India, which was named and termed as the two-nation theory. Now, the two-nation theory basically argued that Hindus and Muslims are two very distinct and separate communities with differences in philosophy, in conduct, in cultural and social norms, in ways of thinking, and also the fact that they were majority and minority in the country. So it was absolutely impossible for them to coexist peacefully because they are not equal in number. First point. The second point, that in a Hindu majority country where the decisions, where the laws and the legislations would be affected by the Hindus and their ideologies, yet it was argued that Muslims would not be able to flourish politically and peacefully within such a country where Hindus are in such big majority. Now, this particular term was coined for the first time by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, and it was later refined and pushed forward by Muhammad Iqbal in 1930 Allahabad Address. And finally, it was adopted by Muhammad Ali Jinnah of the Muslim League, and this particular theory was later on refined, adopted and taken up by Muhammad Ali Jinnah and the Muslim League, especially after 1940. Led to Muhammad Ali Jinnah on 16th August 1947 calling a direct action day. Now, what was this direct action day? Through this, Muhammad Ali Jinnah basically wanted to underscore and highlight the significance of Muslims within the nation. He wanted to basically reflect how there is much support for Pakistan in the country. And this particular direct action day led to a final collapse of unity between the Indians, between the Hindus and Muslims within India, and this led to a chain reaction. It was getting impossible for the British to manage the communal rights, the communal differences which were budding across all different parts of India. And finally, in 1947, Mountbatten Plan was introduced. Lord Mountbatten, who was the last British viceroy, he claimed that it was getting impossible for India to come together, and now the partition of India and Pakistan was almost inevitable, that it would happen at any cost. He offered the transfer of power to not just one dominion, but two dominions, which would be Pakistan and India. Pakistan would be two, West Pakistan and East Pakistan, that we now know as Bangladesh. So on what basis were areas divided? So religious majority was the main criteria for the division of land. So Muslim majority provinces formed Pakistan. For example, West Pakistan included the frontiers of Punjab, Sindh, NWFP was the northwestern frontier provinces, and Balochistan. And East Pakistan was basically the Bangladesh region that we have in the present. And the rest of the states, the middle, the Orissa, talking about Bihar, talking about Uttaranchal, Uttar Pradesh, these all were part of India. These all were part of Bharat. And then the princely states that were more than 500 in number were given the right to choose if they would want to include in India, or if they would want to go separately, or if they would want to include or come with Pakistan.
Now let us discuss the 5 Indo-Pak wars, starting from the first Kashmir War of 1947 and 48. After partition, the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir was undecided, and Pakistan sent tribal militias to forcibly annex Kashmir, and Maharaja Hari Singh of Kashmir had no other option but to sign the instrument of accession and ask India for military help in October 1947. India entered the battleground and pushed back with all its might against Pakistan. And the result was UN had to intervene and call for a ceasefire. And UN created the ceasefire line through the Karachi Agreement of 1949. However, India retained about 2/3 of Kashmir, but Pakistan held the rest through the war, and Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan is now POK, which is Pakistan occupied Kashmir after this war. Now let us talk about the second India-Pakistan war of 1965, which we also known as the Second Kashmir War. Now Pakistan through this launched Operation Gibraltar and sent infiltrators into Kashmir to start an uprising. However, after this war, no major territorial changes were done, and it was a strategic win for India. After this, Tashkent Agreement in 1966 was signed between Lal Bahadur Shastri Ji of India and Muhammad Ayub of Pakistan, and through this both the sides agreed to withdraw to pre-war positions and uphold peace and security. But we know Pakistan is Pakistan. After that, we will talk about the third India-Pakistan War of 1971, which is the most significant one of all, where Pakistan was divided into two. Let us understand the history. Now, internal war broke out between East Pakistan and West Pakistani army, and around 10 million refugees fled to India, creating massive pressure on the government. India decided to intervene militarily, and India had to fight two wars, one with Eastern Front and the other with the Western Front. As a result, India boasts a strategic win in just 13 days of this 1971 war. Bangladesh was created as an independent nation, and about 93,000 Pakistani soldiers surrendered, which is the biggest surrender after World War II. A treaty was signed following this war, which we know as the Shimla Treaty of 1972, signed between Indira Gandhi and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto of Pakistan, which converted the ceasefire line into line of control. After this, the next up is Kargil War of 1999, where Pakistani soldiers again occupied Indian army posts in the Kargil sector during winters, where Indian soldiers had temporarily vacated for harsh weather. Now, the result was India successfully pushed back the intruders after heavy casualties. However, India still maintained clear moral high ground, and it was a big strategic win for India. Now, speaking of the present, speaking of 2025, a terror attack on tourists in Pahalgam resulted in deaths of 26 civilians by Pakistani-based TRF, which was funded by Jaish-e-Mohammed. Now, this led to India doing retaliatory attacks by withdrawing the Indus Water Treaty, and also military retaliatory attack by Operation Sindoor. And precision missiles strikes were done on 9 target sites of Pakistan. However, more information regarding this you can find on my YouTube channel. We have a separate video on this. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, subscribe and share, and